What if I told you that some of the oldest stories we have might be built on a hidden mathematical blueprint? Today, we're going to dive into a really strange pattern found in the Old Testament, a numerical mystery that some people believe is proof of a deliberate hidden design. So let's just get right into it. The huge question behind this whole thing is this: could there actually be a mathematical structure hiding just beneath the surface of the ancient Hebrew scriptures? You know, the whole idea comes from this really compelling set of observations that all seem to point to this kind of pattern. Now, our goal here isn't to prove it or disprove it. We're just going to explore the evidence as it's been presented and, well, let you decide for yourself. So how do you even find a pattern like this? Well, the tool people use is an ancient system called Gematria. And honestly, it's pretty straightforward. See, in the Hebrew alphabet, every letter also represents a number. So you just add up the values of the letters in a word or a phrase and you get its total numerical value. Simple as that. And in this specific investigation, there's one number that just keeps popping up over and over again. It kind of acts like a mathematical key to the whole thing. And that number is 37. So let's follow the trail and see where it goes. The pattern really starts to emerge with a few simple but pretty intriguing examples. Right off the bat, we see how these pretty foundational phrases line up. The Hebrew words for the only son and feast of the Lord both have a numerical value of, you guessed it, exactly 37. The word for witness is 74. Well, that's just 37 times 2. And Passover, a massive cornerstone event, comes out to 148, which is 37 times 4. Okay, so those are simple phrases. But what happens when we look at individual words, words that carry some serious theological weight? This is where the source material suggests the pattern really starts to get deep.
All right, so let's take the next multiple in our sequence, 37 times 3, which equals 111. Now, why does that number matter? Well, it happens to be the exact value of the Hebrew word pele, which translates to wonderful. And of course, that word, wonderful, directly links this number to one of the most famous prophecies in the entire Old Testament from the book of Isaiah. And it just keeps going. A whole bunch of really significant concepts are perfect multiples of 37. For example, the word for rock, a common name for God, has a value of 296, which is 37 times 8. And you see the same kind of structure for words like everlasting, blessed, and sanctuary. So we've looked at words and short phrases, but this is where the source material takes a huge leap forward. It presents what it considers to be the most compelling evidence: entire verses that seem to fit this pattern perfectly. We're going to start right at the beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. It's this iconic image of creation. So what happens when we calculate the gematria value for the original Hebrew of that verse? So let's do the math. The total numerical value of the original Hebrew for this verse comes out to be 1,369. Now that's an interesting number on its own, but here's the kicker. 1,369 isn't just a multiple of 37. It is 37 squared. 37 times 37. Okay, now hold that number, 1369, in your head for a second, because we're about to jump forward hundreds of years in the biblical timeline to a totally different author writing in a completely different context. This is from a famous prophetic verse in the book of Isaiah, and this is just incredible. The source points out that the original Hebrew for this passage also adds up to the exact same number, 1369. So you have two profoundly significant, yet totally separate verses that somehow share the exact same unique mathematical signature of 37 times 37. And this isn't just a one-off thing with the number 1369 either. The source actually provides other examples of entire verses that seem to lock into this 37 pattern. For instance, let's take that famous line from Psalm 23. He restores my soul, he guides me. Its numerical value in Hebrew, 888. And yep, if you run the numbers, that's another perfect multiple, 37 times 24. So up to now, we've been looking at words and individual verses. But the final piece of evidence presented in our source really zooms out to look at the big picture. It raises a whole new question of scale. Let's consider the entire creation account as one giant block of text. So that's from Genesis 1:1 all the way through Genesis 2:3. In total, that whole section has 1,813 Hebrew letters. And here it is, the final calculation.
That total number of letters, 1,813, apparently isn't just random. It factors out perfectly. It is 37 multiplied by 49, or, to put it another way, 37 multiplied by 7 squared. A precise connection to our key number, 37, but this time scaled across the entire creation story.
So, what are we supposed to make of all this? Is it just a series of incredibly profound, statistically wild coincidences? Or, as some people argue, is it evidence of a deliberate mathematical signature woven into the very fabric of the text itself? That's the question we're left to think about.